I thought I'm just gonna.
Sorry,
Hey, hey.
second.
No, I was just saying. I thought just gonna pop in real quick. I don't have a lot of time, but I just want to say hi, see how you're doing.
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, I actually, I'm now. I think in Kimosabi's time zone. I'm in Ecuador, actually, on the other side of the pond.
Ah, Wiki, because you mentioned you was going to go.
Yeah, so I
Oh,
finally
nice
made
one.
it. Yeah.
How long are you over for?
Who knows?
Yeah,
Um, yeah, I have. Yeah, I took a one-way ticket, so I'm just gonna stay as long as I feel like.
nice. What?
Yeah, well, I'm
What?
visiting family, and so yeah, it's kind of, I have quite a big family, and so it can take a while until I see everyone, and I feel like uh, I don't know, I just really don't feel like being in Europe right now anyway. So I have the feeling it's better to take some distance from all the crap that's going on.
I don't blame you. It's a bit of a shit show, isn't it, dude?
Yeah, it's not just a bit of a shit show; it's a complete disaster, in
It
my
is.
opinion. But anyway, don't want to start with all the negativity.
Dude, yeah, but there's so much of it around now,
Yeah.
and it is the negativity is reality,
Yeah. I,
really.
I saw that I saw that you put I think a topic into the chat this time.
Yes,
Um,
cost of living.
Cost of living. Ah,
Mm.
interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's something that isn't. It's
How
really
did you get to
interesting.
that?
Sorry, mate.
How did you get to that topic?
The re why did I put that in? The reason why I put it in is that most people, when they're searching around, I would imagine, most people, when they're searching around on social media and want to listen to stuff, or follow stuff, or be involved with groups, or be involved in stuff on Discord, or anything, any communities, we don't like to be, and it's interesting that you said, talking about anything negative. And we seem to be, or anyone I talk to, they always go, "Oh, CPM or Andy, you're really like, oh, why are you being so down in the dumps?" And I say, "No, I'm not being down in the dump. I'm just talking about the reality of life, the
Hmm.
situation that we're in at the moment." And for me, my observations when I'm out and about and seeing people, the cost of living is having a toll. This time in life is having an actual toll on everything I'm seeing and people I'm talking to. So, but no one wants to talk about it. I don't know why. I probably get why, because like probably most people are pissed off and fed up with it all. But it's kind of cool not to ignore it
Hmm.
and just
I think there are
recognize
many
that it
many reasons,
exists.
right?
Sorry?
I think there are many reasons. I think
Yeah, go.
everything that is kind of complex, people usually don't want to talk about because then you have to think and form thoughts and arguments, and that's just too much,
It
for some
is,
people.
yeah.
But then I don't know. I mean, I can give you like a quick overview from what I see here, if you find it interesting, because
Yeah, definitely, dude. Yeah, I really would.
it's actually um, well, maybe I have to kind of like build the context first a little bit because I don't know if you know, but Ecuador had as basically the currency here is the US dollar, and Ecuador used to have up until I would say I think 98 or 99, the currency's name was the sucre, and but then they went into hyperinflation and they dollarized the country. And so since then, obviously, when something like that happens to your country, then you lose your monetary policy. So you cannot print money, which kind of has certain implications, which kind of in that situation, if you come out of a hyperinflation, obviously most of the population here, I would say they see this as an advantage because they kind of fought themselves out of this circle of everything costs more and more every single day. And it
Yeah.
was crazy. I remember, I mean, I was quite young, but I remember that it was, I remember it because I think I was here for the 1998 World Cup where France won against Brazil. And so I remember my entire family being for Brazil and my little brother and I, we had like, t-shirts in France and they were kind of pissed off with us. But yeah. anyway, so I remember that time quite vividly. And so I think a year after that or something, then it's crazy. Like people basically couldn't get money from the banks anymore, and then like simple stuff like bread or just very simple stuff costs suddenly like I don't know, they had to put like zeros on the bills because it would just be so like the inflation would be so crazy that I mean, imagine if something costs suddenly like I don't know, 50% more, 100% more just in a few months. And yeah, so that's just really something that I think people in Europe, it's very difficult to wrap your hand around this. And then yeah, and so that's
What
kind of the context. And so now when I come here after like more than 25 years, sorry, what do you want to say?
I was just going to say, what year were you talking about?
I would have to Google it, but I'm pretty sure it was 90. So I'm talking about 98, but I think it happened in 99, the dollarization, or maybe 2000, but I'm sure it must have been around this time. It was before the euro was introduced in Europe.
Okay, and I've got another question before you go ahead because I find this so fascinating. Do you know what it was like in the build up to that hyperinflation?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, everybody listening to this, they should kind of look this up because yeah, I would have to look it up myself, but I can tell you that I remember there was a president. I think his name was Bukaram or something like this, and he had to flee to I think he fled to Panama and he stole a lot of money. That's at least what at that time. I mean, I'm giving you the perspective of I don't know how old I was. I don't know, maybe like a 12, 14-year old, no, maybe 12-year-old kid, maybe even 11. I don't remember. So basically at that time, I really just listened to my aunts and uncles, and they were like, "Oh, this guy like stole all the money from the country, and then he fled to Panama or something like this, and it was terrible." So I remember that people were like running on the runway of the major airports, and they would just try to block him fleeing the country, and they really, I mean, it's just really it was a disaster, and then I remember that, we basically went back to Europe, like my family, and then and yeah, and so now, I mean, obviously, I came back quite a lot since then, but then right now, 25 years later or more, I see the country. Obviously, I had the conversation with an uncle of mine yesterday, and he is a great proponent of stability. Obviously, he sees that the dollar gives them stability, but at the same time, also they understand that there are certain things that are like it's very difficult to react to certain macroeconomic shifts if you cannot print your own money, like in terms of investments in your own infrastructure, in your own country, in your own education, et cetera, et cetera. But I mean, I don't have to explain this, so you know this. And so it's kind of, I always try to not sound or not like, I don't know, sound European when I get into these conversations because it can be very condescending and patronizing. But yeah, it's interesting to see. And so for the cost of livings now, having built up this context somehow a little bit at least, and I guess it's always striking how certain things here cost a lot, like in relative, obviously, to how much people earn. And I have a cousin whose son is a lawyer, and he's just 25 or 26 years old. So he just started working and he earns around $700, I think, and then between seven or $800 a month, and his rent is around I think like $300. And and obviously, if you have this as a context, then you have to have like very cheap food. So there are restaurants where you can eat like maybe have lunch for like $3 or something like this, but then there are like gigantic shopping centers, like malls, where you can have, I don't know, normal, like super expensive food with like, I don't know, $30 or more. Or like a Negroni, one of those cocktails from Milan that costs like $16. And so you can imagine that for people that earn less than $1,000 a month, that's like almost impossible. Like how are you gonna buy like some Hugo Boss pants that cost like $120 or more. If it's already almost a third of what you have of the money that you have to spend after paying rent. And so just I don't know if that's kind of a little bit what you were hoping for in that conversation, but that's what I can see here in terms of cost of livings.
So it's that you're talking about El Salvador, yeah, with your cousin.
No, Ecuador.
Oh, sorry, Ecuador. You're talking about Ecuador with your cousin, yeah.
Yeah.
So how? Wow, that is a massive difference in. That's almost like a two-tier living standard.
Yeah, I think that there's much more to this. I mean, I can see also something that I find interesting. There are in the, I would say, I think southeast in a place that is called Cumbaya and in the surroundings of Quito. There are a lot of, I think it's Americans primarily and Europeans. And they bring a lot of investment and they buy a lot of land and they have a lot of I don't know. It's just very different there. It's just outside of Quito. It's actually I think considered to be still Quito, but it's I think it's a little bit lower. The climate is a bit warmer because Quito is on 2,700 meters, so it's right in the Andes. I don't know. Does that make sense for you, or are you on meters? Make sense in the UK, right? You don't count in feet, right? Or do you?
I'm a little bit both really, feet and
Okay.
meters.
Good. So, so I see that, and I wonder. Yesterday, I had a conversation about how to properly invest so that the local population can also somehow benefit from from these kind of investments in the local economy. Because obviously, if you just kind of, if you have 1 million or 2 million and you live in the US, it doesn't really go a long way. So I don't know, you can't really buy a property and in a major city or something, or you might, but I don't actually really know. I just assume. But if you go there, that's a lot of money. Like even with like, I don't know, 100K, 200K, you can buy a decent piece of land and maybe a house. And so I don't know, if you imagine you have 1 million, that's a lot of money. And so if people come and they invest and they just use their money to buy land, then I wonder what kind of result or what kind of consequence that has for the local population. Because
I,
for them, the prices go up and it's totally inaccessible. Yeah.
this is one of the problems, isn't it?
Yeah.
It
And I wonder if those people that come and they make these investments, they're actually exactly the same people that have suffered more or less from the same thing in their own country. So because if I'm person X from Europe or the US and I have like a half a million or 1 million and my living standards are not as high as my local surroundings there, but then I go to another country and I can suddenly have a house and have a more than decent life. It's great for me. And I'm just wondering if there, like, what would be the best way to make it also great for the local population? Because obviously there must be a way, right? Because you can somehow invest in local businesses so that they can somehow, make money, and so they can then somehow buy something, and so basically you stimulate the economy somewhere there. Obviously, it's somehow a drain from Europe and from the US, but still, for the local populations, it could be good. But there's also the negative side that if you have like a lot of people that just buy up all the land, and then the local people cannot buy the land anymore, or they just cannot live anymore, and then they have to kind of like go basically disappear as you just kind of, I don't know, tell them to leave. In a way, you don't actually actively do it, but that's the result of it. And I've seen this also in France, to be honest. Like that's like a kind of little parenthesis, but I've spoken to somebody like coincidentally in Chamonix some months ago. There's a woman, she was a hairdresser, and she said it was actually not in Chamonix, but in one of the surrounding towns. There's a lot of British people. They seem to buy a lot of how do you say, land there, like just to build and to invest. And she said the prices have been going up so quickly that she's been living there her whole life. She was born there and she worked there her whole life, and she cannot afford to pay rent there anymore. So she cannot live in the place where she is from anymore. And so I think there must be a better way, right? There must be a way how these economies can be done in a more in a I don't know, can be somehow promoted and grow in a more humane way, so that people can somehow live in harmony and share, the benefit of investments. And I just don't really like, please don't ask me how, because at the moment I just don't even have the head space for this. I'm just here to kind of like enjoy some time with my family.
Yeah, it's an important question, isn't it? Because you do often we got the same thing happens everywhere. I mean, you look at London for argument's sake in the UK. You know, I used to live in just on the outskirts of London
Mhm.
many moons ago, not that long ago, really. To be fair, probably 35, 36 years ago. That's where I bought my first property.
That's a couple of moons, I have to say.
Sorry,
That's a couple of moons, I would say. 35 years ago, you said.
yeah, 35 years ago. Yeah, I'm 60 now.
Wow.
And I've just seen this dramatic increase in obviously money coming into the area where I used to live and all over London, to be fair. And it's just totally exploded the price and cost of living in London. And I often sit there and think, how does that happen? And the only thing that makes any logical sense to me is that culturally, people, communities of people move to an area, and if they have money, then they push money into that area, into that local economy. And then for some reason, that as time goes by, then when we talk about property wise, for some reason, as time goes by, somehow the prices just increase. And I don't know whether that's because we naturally become greedy. The I think possibly that because there's a intermediary, like an estate. Do you know what I mean when I say an estate agent?
Yeah.
Someone that you go to say, I want to sell my house. They then
Yeah. Yeah.
market the house. They will then possibly start to have an influence on inflating the price because obviously they want to make money on the pretense that the area's nice, it's got a nice clientele there, got nice people living there, and that's
Yeah.
has a massive effect. And I just think it's greed
Yeah.
that makes and we're to blame. We
It's
are.
very difficult to see where the line, is. So where greed is and where some, because even like trading, right? So one could say any sort of trading with any sort of let's say particularly with any kind of goods that are actually needed by other people, by some people. That if a company or anything somehow produces something, and that company has a major downturn, and you see this from a trader's perspective as a great opportunity to invest and then somehow make money in the future, then one could argue and say, yeah, no, that's great, that's needed actually, because a trader or traders in general would somehow almost have like some sort of the economy needs people like these, because they have like the strategic foresight to invest somewhere, so that in a major downturn these companies can actually have like sort of build a floor price and then get past these downturns and then go up again. And so you could even say, somehow you could say, oh, they actually in some way even help them. Obviously, if they have a financial rationale and they want the financial gain, but that could be seen like this on the one hand. But then there's somewhere a line of greed where people just, if I now swing back again to real estate, where people just say like, oh, okay, so I can buy another house and another house and another house and I rent it and another house, and I don't need actually all this property, but I it's good to own it because prices rent, because there's not much there's not many people anymore that can buy it, and so people have to rent, and if people have to rent and they cannot buy, then the rent prices go up because there are not enough places to rent. And then so it's great if I have all the property, because they have to then pay my mortgage. So basically, they are paying my mortgage with with whatever their salary is, and that's fantastic for me. And everybody else can go and fuck themselves. And yeah, that's blunt greed, and that cannot be good because in the end, I mean, I know that Camus is not a big fan of this guy. What's his name? The wealth inequality guy that is now in the UK, getting super famous. I always forget his name. Um, Sorry, I think you're on mute.
Gary Stevenson.
Oh yeah, exactly. But there's a couple of
Prick.
things that
Total
I find
prick.
interesting.
He's a
Yeah,
prick.
I don't know. He might be a prick, but it made me think a lot because wealth inequality in general has been a topic for me for like almost 2 decades, I think, or more, for almost my entire life. So I was just wondering. I mean, I think like economies in general are just based on trade, like the selling and buying of everything. And so if one portion of the equation, like if just the population owns literally too much, then it's just common sense that these types of economies they get an issue because the ideal economies they work when everybody has a little bit. Nothing will always be equal. It's impossible, but people have to have somehow the ability to buy and sell stuff. And if everything gets concentrated only on very few, then it's just common sense to understand that it's going to be getting really difficult and people are
Yeah.
not going to be able to buy and sell stuff, particularly real estate. And so, yeah, so if you're one of those people that have real estate and where other people are paying your mortgage, then it's fantastic. Congratulations to you. But for all the other people, I don't know, that's not that good.
That's shit, mate.
Mm.
It's shit. And that's becoming more and more apparent. I think probably from my observations, just generally, I'm quite lucky where I live, but even where I live now, when we sometimes we go shopping with my wife and we go to the local town centre, and but I'm seeing more and more people living in doorways, begging, rightly or wrongly. There's a whole conversation around that, but they're there. They didn't used to be there. And I often sit there like she's buzzing in and out shops, and I just sit outside and wait if the weather's nice, and I just look at people, and there's a real big general divide in what I would say one, contentment and happiness, which probably reflects on people's general economic position that they find themselves in, and I think that's getting worse,
Mm.
and it's accelerating, absolutely accelerating, and I find that troubling. The problem is most of us, me included, sometimes I've got to admit I'm just the same, is that we have a tendency to ignore it and go like "fuck it, I'm okay" type thing, But not sure we can just generally just keep getting away with that. Well, we can, I suppose, until we don't have to anymore. I don't know, but it's worrying me being a dad with 3 children. They're grown up, but they're starting to have children, wanting children, maybe thinking about they can't because they can't afford it. It's just
Mm.
it's a shit show, man.
Yeah.
In a Western economy that supposed to be at the forefront of leading the world in how we should live.
Yeah,
It's really weird.
it's quite sad actually because it's I mean to me at least it ends up in all this kind of like vicious circle of greed and of just I don't know if it's also so pretentious and so strange and arrogant to think that the Western world has to lead anything. So it's just ridiculous because the Western world actually just knows the Western world and tries to implement the Western systems everywhere else and I don't know, it's been so destructive in the history of everything, of everywhere, and I don't know, it's just so crazy. So I don't believe in that at all. I think all of these kind of bullshit talk about increasing efficiency here, efficiency there, financial efficiency, and it's crazy. Like why would we want to kind of punish ourselves so much with that stuff? Like I see I see sometimes, you know, sometimes I don't know. It's just so crazy. Like everything depends on these things, and it's just like almost like a disease. It's I really don't like that. Like I really have to make an effort to just get rid of all this greedy stuff. Like sometimes things are just really not efficient, and that's okay, and that's fine. You know, yesterday, no, 2 days ago, I had a conversation with two aunts of mine, and they were concerned because there's like an increase in suicide rates, but amongst young people, and they were talking a lot about like TikTok and social media in general, like social channels that. And I said, I think yeah, that might be a big topic, but also I think what you just said, like the this kind of like missing perspective of, you know, yourself, your own ambition to have a family or to be able to afford a family. That's just, that must be so frustrating. And so obviously, I don't want to say that automatically this leads to suicidal thoughts for young people, but maybe like the mix of all these things creates anxieties. And I can see that, you know, if it's so frustrating that it feels hopeless, because you'll just have the feeling that you'll never have you'll never have the ability to kind of to afford these basic things like having a family. That's crazy. I mean, I can see how this can maybe in some people trigger some initial paths to maybe depression, and then, you know, one thing leads to another. And so yeah, I don't know. It's just
Opportunity. If you take away opportunity from people, then what's left?
what's there left? Yeah, what's there left? It just what's left is you turn into some kind of ant where you have to work for the man, and
Hamster
then
wheel.
90% of everything you own is gone. And if you're lucky, you're not completely full covered with debt. That, you know, because a lot of people, they, you know, you can go to a shopping center. I always wonder, how do they, like, if you earn that, you know, that little, if you have like 1,000, and if you have $2,000, you're already like, wow, this is actually a good life per month, I'm talking. And then you go to the shopping center, and like basic things like a washing machine or a fridge costs. A friend of mine has a climbing business, and his fridge broke. He's like a little bar there. It's like, oh, I have to buy a new fridge. It's like $500, and it's like with a 20% interest rate. It's like, yeah, I can't afford to buy it, so I have to kind of like pay it like in installments. And it's like 20% interest. I mean, that's insane. I don't actually know if that really, I mean, that's at least not a very common thing to see in the places in Europe where I lived. I mean, maybe with something with a car or something that costs you like 100K or 40K, but with a fridge, I mean, and it's a ripoff. It's like a manipulation, so that then in the end you pay like 700 or maybe $1,000 if you get into trouble, maybe even more. That can't be right. Then everybody is in debt. That destabilizes everyone. That's just messed up.
It's a shit show, dude. I can't explain it any other way. The more I think about it, I think it's really funny. I was talking to my wife earlier on today. We was just talking about things generally. We was talking about the kids and whatever. And unfortunately, because I'm my age, I've you draw on an experience. You draw on. I quite often look back at when I was my youngest boy's age. He's 23 now. And I was talking to my wife and I said, blimey, bought the first house at 23.
Yeah. That's, I'm I don't know. I mean,
And,
I'm
and
about Camel's age, and I don't think I'll ever have a house. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
it's
And then
ridiculous.
yeah, and I can understand that people can see that or hear that and say like, how is it possible? But, you know, and it's not like, I don't know. It's kind of it's a strange, it's this kind of strange situation to be in, and you kind of have to be positive and just, you know, just accept it and fine, and try to somehow live your life. And obviously, if you want to kind of change it, then you can somehow try to channel your energies into that direction and try to change it. But I don't know. I'm at least for me when I see all of these things in these different contexts, particularly in Europe and Latin America and the US, then I don't know. I just have the feeling kind of takes away my motivation to do anything. To be honest, I just want to kind of be with my family and enjoy the little time, like the couple of decades that I have on this planet, and just sometimes here what I really like is all the food and all the stuff, and my family just here the culture is very different. You can just go and knock on the door of anyone and just go in and have fun and enjoy and laugh and my uncle just fell from 2 days ago from the bed, and then he hit his head, and so the entire family goes in 3 o'clock in the morning to the hospital, and they're always calling it, and that's nice. I enjoy that. It's fun. I miss that. It's then they just call me and be like, hey, can you come and pick us up? We're done. It's like, yeah, no problem. It's 2 o'clock in the morning or something, and or 3 o'clock, and yeah, and that's how it is, and that's great. I like it. And that's got nothing to do with monetary anything, and it's got nothing to do with the actual topic that you wanted to talk about. So I'm sorry about that.
No, 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 you're not.
but
I'm
but it
always,
has somehow something
yeah, it
because
has.
it is
It's massive.
value.
It's massive value. It's big. It's a bigger value than anything. Having family and having people around you and having a community around you is so much more important than most things in life. But I don't know about when you was in around France, Italy, but in the UK, it would seem that community of family orientation of it still exists, obviously, but it's very segregated now,
Mm,
extremely segregated. And it's almost as if we like to talk about having community, but we're not really prepared to go out there and build a community and make that community exist unless it's absolutely necessary. Most of the time, we're just pretty much stuck in our own little worlds, our own little units. I call it units, and that's it. We like to be sympathetic towards people, but I hear a lot people say charity begins at home, and
mm.
that's the most important thing. And I get that; it really makes a lot of sense, a hell of a lot of sense. But as things
It's
get
funny
tighter,
actually, but because I mean, you are from the UK, and I know
yeah,
the UK quite well. One of my best friends is lives in Cambridge and is from close to York, a little town over there. And
oh yeah,
sometimes I go and visit his mom because like just we know each other for a long time, and also the family, and it's really funny because at the beginning, so I remember one time I went to Cambridge, for example, for some kind of like poetry slam or something. It was this friend of mine, and the organizer was a friend of his. And I went there and was like, "Hey, I'm Victor. You're the friend of Ben." And then I kind of like leaned in, like for it's just very normal to give a kiss to friends of friends, like on the cheek, just to greet. And she just jumped back and she looked at me and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing?" And I could see that she was almost scared, or I don't know. And I thought like, oh shit, I've done something that is wrong, but I don't really. So that was like years ago. But then now I can go to see the family of my friend, and they already know me, so I can go hug his mom and be like, hey, how are you doing? Then she's already almost past her 70s, well past her 70s, and so and I realized with the time she really likes me. Like she actually enjoys that. So we're all human. Like we all need this. We all need warmth, in my opinion. Obviously, we have different cultures, and some people are different. But I think like a person that feels lonely, it doesn't matter if you're Chinese, Russian, American, from the UK or Latin American, lonely feels the same everywhere. And if you give somebody a hug because the person is lonely and then the person feels better again, then it's just normal to become friends or to get closer and to talk about things that really is real, like that comes from the heart, and to share stuff. And then this is how relationships are built. And if you can't do this, like every culture has their own way. Like some people maybe need a little bit more alcohol, and then just to kind of like grease the wheels, and then you can do that too. But yeah, I kind of, I don't know, I enjoy to jump between those worlds, but now I'm kind of also happy to be here where I don't really feel like I have to do anything. Like everything is coming to me, and so yeah, that's some kind of value that I enjoy for the moment.
It's it's difficult. It really is. It's just as again I will say it, and people get probably pissed off with me saying it, which is fine. It's when I've been so used to watching a world, living in a physical type world, where we meet, greet, hug, say hi. You know,
Mm.
there's obviously respect around all of that. But now it's just like, especially for youngsters, it's just like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? What's all that about? How,
Yeah, is that really like that?
it's,
I didn't know that.
yeah,
In the
definitely.
UK, like when you were young, it was more normal to hug, and now you would say that it's more
100%
distant.
because, yeah,
Really?
yeah,
Oh.
definitely because it was always like, even there was always physical contact via a handshake or a hug.
Mm.
So between men, like gentlemen, it was like the greeting was put your hand out.
Mm.
But now, and you didn't think twice about it. Whenever you met someone, it's just like, hello, how are you? Like, shake your
Mm.
hand. But now, like, you know, when I'm introduced to certain people of a younger age, like, they just like, they don't even offer their hand. So they're not used to that physical contact of any description. And I
Mm.
just think, well, that's weird. Let alone a hug. I mean, I wouldn't hug them, obviously, but
Uh,
just, you know, the shake of a hand, which is physical contact. And I just sit there and I think, whoa, how socially awkward are the youngsters getting now, like in a generation?
mm.
And so if you start to take that away and then another generation, you know, and then it goes into another generation, all that physical aspect of human need will go
Mm.
because they can't even recognize, or we can't even recognize the basic necessities of what it's like to have physical contact with someone, other than fighting, probably, because that will never go away. Aggression, that emotion never seems to go away. But I'm with you, dude, and it's really interesting. But whenever we've gone abroad, to a degree, me and my wife, especially in and around Mediterranean places, it's still
Mm.
prevalent. It's still that meet greet would would like if you hugged someone, it just was normal type thing when you meet them.
Mm.
You know, not I don't mean like in a sexual way, but just a
I wouldn't even know how to hug somebody in a sexual way, really, because it's. But
nor would I
yeah,
anymore, dude. Don't worry.
I don't know how to kind of translate this
It's
into cost
weird.
of living, but it could, one could maybe philosophically say that the cost of living goes down when you have more hugs or more kind of affectionate interactions because maybe, if you don't have it, you actually pay the cost of being lonely. And so maybe, yeah, maybe you can go to some Western places where, I don't know, where you have like fantastic in innovation going on, but then you pay the price for it somehow with just a society that is a little bit kind of more dissociated in social emotional terms. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe that's also unfair to say because obviously I'm generalizing a lot.
Yeah.
Like it's not really it's not true. Like that Europe. I actually always hate it when people kind of talk about Europe as if it was one country because you know better than I that Spain and the UK is not the same thing and it's still part of Europe. It's like people that talk about Africa as if it was one country or Latin America. And
Yeah.
so it's just a lot of diversity.
Mm.
But yeah, I don't know. Maybe also one thing that I've noticed just kind of leaving Italy, I've noticed a lot how much I actually really like living there. And one of the major things that is just so maybe it's just so prevalent. It's just so so obvious that something that you do every day, a habit of mine is drinking coffee. Like every day I go to my home coffee bar, basically next to my place, and I sit down. There's one waitress who's actually married to an Italian guy. She's Scottish. She's become my friend in a way, and I drink a coffee there. And so I thought a coffee in Italy costs you one maximum, like an espresso, €1, maybe 120. Then a cappuccino, maybe 130, like €1.30. And in other places, like if you have a cappuccino, I don't know, how much does it cost in London? Would you say like £4? I think
Exactly.
in Paris this was around, like, depending obviously where you drink it, but can be up to like €4 to €6. And and I tell you, like, that makes a difference because if you can because if you go somewhere and the coffee costs like three times as much and it's something that you drink every day, then it makes a big difference. Like you feel like you don't feel the it takes away this feeling of, how you say it? You say levity, like this feeling of not thinking about what you're spending for something that makes you feel happy. That's just a small thing, but it's more than the coffee. It's the people that are there that you don't know, that you have another coffee, spend another 10-20 minutes having a chat, talking about senseless stuff, nothing important, but it's something that is good for your psyche, where you start your day, you take your time, and then you can somehow, do you know what I mean?
I know exactly what you mean. It's called socializing.
Yeah, probably.
It is. It's something that we all like to do. I mean, sometimes it's really cool to go somewhere, have a coffee, have a cup of tea, whatever, have a beer, have a whatever, and be on your own. But for me personally, I would be just as cool if I popped into a cafe, had a coffee, and someone sat by me and we started talking. I would enjoy that.
Mm,
Just socializing,
yeah.
you know. There is occasions where you just want to be on your own and you just want to watch the world go by, but you can give that off with body language. But as I say, most of the time, if someone was wanted a conversation and I was quite chilled and relaxed, I'd really enjoy that. I would really
Yeah,
enjoy that. But getting back to what you were saying about just being able to afford a coffee along the lines of cost of living, why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we? Why can't we go out, enjoy the basic fruits of socialization and being able to afford it?
exactly. I think
Why shouldn't
that's
we be?
actually really important for, I wouldn't even say for society, because these kind of like little things, those are the things that make people happy, like in terms of an entire society. I mean, not necessarily just coffee. There are people obviously that don't give a damn about coffee. They don't care about coffee. They don't drink coffee. But there might be other things, and those things need to remain affordable. Like if you, I would actually even go as far as say if you would increase the price of coffee because coffee is such an essential thing in Italy. If you would, if I don't know, tomorrow charge like €3 for an espresso, I think people would just, I don't know, run immediately to the president, burn him alive. They would just say like, this is not possible. It's really funny. Those are the little things that I really enjoy over there. And obviously here I also pay attention to that. And so it's funny, obviously it's a big difference if you go to a place where it's kind of more Americanized, or there's more European immigrants here, then the coffee can cost, just like in Europe, basically the same price, like $4.50 or something like this. But then if you go to some other places, it's much cheaper, and it's funny. Like I think those things have to remain accessible for the average person, otherwise you might get riots or something like that. Like even food is the same, I guess. I really enjoy also the diversity in fruits that are so accessible here. I always, it's not like I forget, but when you get back to a place, then it just you see all these things that are just normal for you, but you never have access to them, and suddenly they pop up again. You'd be like, oh yeah, I forgot how good this tastes. Oh my God. And then you're just like, oh, I'm gonna roll home today. I ate so much. And I'd be like, no, I just wanted to have a coffee, and they had like tons of like things that people bring. I really enjoy that. That's fantastic.
It's um, it's scary. It is scary, and I think the more that we are, as a society, stuck on that hamster wheel, grinding away, the more we're missing the opportunity to socialize, and possibly the more we can't afford to socialize because we're just so exhausted with trying to earn a living just to pay the basics to survive. I know it sounds really weird to say those sort of words, but my oldest boy actually turned around and said that to me the other day. He said, Dad, he said, I'm working really, really hard. His partner's working really, really hard. Come the weekend, obviously, that's the only chance now that they've got to do this shopping a bit. He said, like, before you know it, the week's gone. And all we've
Yeah,
done is work really hard to keep a roof over our head. And we've got nothing hardly to show at the end of the month. And I sit there and I
exactly.
just think, fuck me. Because I've got the privilege of thinking back to his age and the position I was in. And it's so different.
Mm.
So, so different. And it really, that really starts to hit home about the the cost of living in our particular part of the world, and where it's going. It's and then I can understand why people are getting certain mental illnesses, why they're getting stressed, why they're not using certain aspects of socialization that I was used to. Why more people are spending time on the internet? Why more people are spending time on social media because it's easy to. You don't have to do anything. I watch all my children. They seem to be able to multifunction, somehow have a conversation in the physical world, but continue to have a conversation in the social media world at the same time. And I just sit there and think, what, what's going on?
Mm.
But that can't keep going. It's got to burst. Something's got to burst because there's
Yeah.
only so much you can physically take on board, and then what's the consequences of that? What bursts first, the human being or the economic situation? It's
I think
interesting.
that yeah, that's it's kind of a conversation where you cannot escape to talk about AI because all of these kind of things actually is what I mentioned before, right? It's kind of humanity trying to follow this kind of Western obsession with efficiency. It's like it's this kind of Elon Musk thought. It's like, oh, this is inefficient, so we have to destroy it. And actually, it's just some kind of language that we use to which is a euphemism for things that hurt us. Actually, that really is that obviously. I mean, there are certain things that where efficiency is important, um, but then there must be a line, and we're past this line. Like we cannot see. We're so far away from the line as the line is gone, and now people don't take care of themselves anymore. They don't care about themselves anymore. They think they have to work and work and work. And then, you know, as you said, it's not just the weeks, the months, the years go by and you'd be like, shit, what have I done the last 5 years? Like, oh, fuck, I worked for that company and how much money did you actually save? Almost nothing, like in comparison. Like, why? Because an economic downturn, and then suddenly you didn't get the bonus that you thought you might get, and so all your calculations that you did initially they didn't kind of, and it's always all of these plans that never work out anyway. I'd be like, why would we like to do this? I totally understand these people that say like, man, I have no time for myself. What kind of life is that? That doesn't make sense. Like there must be a better way. And I'm done. You know, when people talk about when I hear this bullshit, Elon Musk and all this kind of mentality, just I want to puke. Like literally, I hate that. I think this is some sort of bullshit manipulation stuff that of people that have like mental health issues that somehow try to project their own social pathocracy styles on us, on the rest of the people, and make us feel guilty for the fact that we are actually the healthy ones and that we just want to take care of each other and of ourselves because we understand that if we're not healthy ourselves, it's going to get really difficult to take care of the people we love. So yeah, when people talk about efficiency, I'm always very careful, and I'm a bit tired of this kind of conversations, like especially if they're somewhere like in a context where it's broadcasted somewhere on some news channels where it's kind of glorified. It's like, oh yeah, they make so much money. They must be so efficient and so innovative. And it's like, yeah, so bullshit. So just a lie.
It's it will always it will always be bullshit unless that efficiency is streamlined down into the population to give us a better standard of living.
Yeah. I think,
If that was to happen, then I would understand why we need to get efficient at what we're doing. But unfortunately, because we're in such a shit show, people would like to see the product and the result of that efficiency today.
yeah. It's
And
really funny. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was like in a chat and somewhere in Discord, gotten lost in some kind of like psychedelics discussion about, I don't know, what was it, this or and there was this kind of this artist, and they wanted to pay him some, I don't know, some random tokens for creating some kind of art that they would then somehow use in this project. And that guy literally just told them, you know what? I mean, he didn't say fuck off, but he said something, or I don't know if you can say this in the What podcast, but
you
I think
can,
we've
yeah.
said much worse.
Yeah, you can say
But
what you like.
he basically said something like on the lines of, my art takes time, and if you cannot, wait, then just, you have to deal with it because then I'm not the right one for you because I can't, I'm not efficient. I just do stuff because I love it, and efficiency in my life has no place. And so, and I thought like, yeah, man, like finally someone says what needs to be said. It's like I'm not against efficiency, but I'm against this kind of like crazy, like sick obsession where everything kind of has to be submitted under the great god of efficiency and oh my god, it's like it's a very bad god. Like that god punishes you for everything.
Definitely. The problem is you hear about, you spoke about Elon Musk and this big Doge thing, is that it sounds good. And maybe whatever they're doing is relevant and making things more efficient at that slick level. The problem is we don't see it at our level. We don't see the product of that. We don't see the result of it. Now we might do in 3 or 4 or 5 years' time, possibly, but then no one's got 3 or 4 or 5 years' time. They
Yeah.
want it. They want it now because it's a shit show.
Everybody wants everything now. Or yesterday, actually. That's a better word. They want it yesterday.
Well, they need
It's
it
like, oh
yesterday.
shit, want it yesterday.
A lot of
Like,
people
yeah.
need it yesterday. You know,
I wish I could just find a way how to, I don't know. Sometimes I wish, actually, to be honest, one of the reasons also why I'm here is obviously visiting my family, but also I wanted to check a little bit, what the price, the cost of living is, and just how much I could somehow, go down with my fixed costs if I just moved here. And so that's why when I saw your message, I thought, oh, that's going to be an interesting what podcast because mainly because I thought, people were talking about greed before as well. Like when people trade or when people try to kind of learn something new, sometimes it's like, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do I don't know, a master or some additional education because I have to pay for it and also for my living costs. And if you do like a full time, I don't know, MBA or some other master stuff, that is mostly bullshit anyway, unless you learn some hard skills. Then then you don't have the money. I mean, or again, you go into debt, and then basically you throw yourself back into the hamster wheel, which is exactly the opposite of what you want to do, or at least me. And then I was just wondering, like, there must be a way how to kind of like reduce your fixed costs. I don't care about like consuming stuff. I don't want to waste my money. I just want to conserve my time that I have here on this planet and make the most out of it. And like since I've been having these thoughts like already for some years, I'm really careful like with what I spend in a way. And it's also kind of like it has positive and negative sides, right? Because you cannot be too overly careful because otherwise you go into this kind of subconscious, like constant, like that's also some sort of like sick efficiency thing of your, how I'm going to spend this. Like, is this too much? Is this, and I hate to think like this. It's not a life. Like, like sometimes, like when one time, like I think probably a couple of months ago, I had a chat with Kim Sabi, and I was kind of thinking, like, like based on a couple of things that he says, like traders, like when you trade in general, like you have to somehow have this kind of mentality a little bit. And I think it must be quite challenging to somehow, stand with your 2 feet on the ground and don't get too carried away with this mentality that can be so unhealthy that you think like, okay, but hang on, if I invest this here now, then I have an opportunity cost that is like that much because maybe I should have invested it in something else or in five other things, and I would have made more money. And if you get into this wheel, then it's just terrible. Like I just think to myself, I just have to accept that I'm gonna lose money. Like I will have opportunity costs everywhere, and if I just basically make a step forward, like small steps forwards, then I already won, and it's completely irrational to believe that you always have to completely, be 100% efficient because then you're just gonna always, it's super unhealthy. You're just always gonna hate yourself for always making mistakes because there's a million ways to make mistakes and only one way to make everything right. That can't be a life. That'd be terrible.
Yeah. Do you like the idea or of being a trader?
Yeah, I love the concept, but I come to realize more that I mean I'm definitely not a trader. Like I'm more like an investor, I guess. I mean, like after all these discussions and all, you know, listening to particularly also the camel, and I just I think people that really like say or claim to be traders, like I mean, you really, I don't know, if you just kind of trade sometimes and you lose a lot of money, then you're not really a trader. You're just gonna get gambler that loses money. But if you're like it's like really a lot of responsibility, and not, maybe responsibility is not the right word, but if you're honest to yourself and you're really profitable and you can make a life, then yeah, then you can call yourself a trader, I guess. But for me, I think what would help, what is my main interest and my main motivation in all of this, and what's kind of my main um, drive in a way, is that it's somehow when I'm just observing and when I make a couple of trades, it just like then it forces me to always be on the tip of my toes when it comes to a certain kind of microeconomic movements, or when it comes to certain things that I find interesting as such, even if I would, it's just kind of like a thing that I use to kind of like follow all this stuff, and then it's a bit to have a bit skin in the game, and kind of and on top of this, I come to realize in all of this, in this entire path, that it's just filled with data. Like it's like just live data that is free and that you can see everywhere, and I like that because I really enjoy this. It's kind of a passion in any kind of context, and it's been in my profession. It's been in anything, and yeah, and sometimes obviously I have to admit sometimes it's too much, and I've been actually quite happy that just in the last days when everybody's going crazy on Twitter and all these people, they're just kind of going nuts, that I've been just here with my family and quite distracted actually from all of this. So it actually it's been it's been funny because it's been really helpful in a way. It's a coincidence that all of this came together like this. But to answer your question, yeah, obviously I like talking about it. I wouldn't say I'm not really a trader. Like I've come to understand that it's, if you really claim to be a profitable trader and you can do this, it's fantastic. But then it's really like your thing, and it's almost, I don't know, it's almost quite personal. And I've come to think that if somebody asked me now, I'd just be like, no, I I am what I am, but I'm not yet there, I guess.
it's almost like the concept of understanding what a pro trader is just understanding it's the concept, it's just a job. Because the way I look at it, I mean, I'm too old for it all now, but if I really wanted to be a trader, then I'd have the same mindset as if I wanted to do any job in life. I'd have to sit there and think, okay, I need to do an apprenticeship. I need to learn something. I need to educate myself. Where do I go to educate myself? And I need to be in a position where I've got the time to educate myself, like anything. Like if you wanted to be a plumber, or an electrician, or a teacher, or a doctor, or da 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 da, it's the same process, exactly the same process. So I just look at it and just think, well, it's just a job. There's nothing brilliant about it. Morally, I don't particularly like the idea of what it does and what what some people do because I can't see the point. But then I can apply that to any type of job, really, to be fair.
Uh,
But I think it's blown. It's quite blown up on the internet because there's this, especially with crypto and all of that that's come in over the last 14, 15 years, because it's almost like, okay, I've got an opportunity to make money. But like everything, most people don't want to do the work. They don't want to learn a new trade. They don't want to learn a new job. They just want to, okay, yeah, I bet I've got a couple of £100 or euros or whatever, dollars, and I'll just have a flutter on here. And nine times out of 10, because you haven't educated yourself on the whole aspect. I mean, I listened to Campbell, and he's put so much time and effort into that.
yeah,
And
it's unbelievable. The content that he puts online is crazy. Like
yeah,
it's really funny because then I have to admit, like there must be people because otherwise all of these kind of strange coins they would not have like they wouldn't be so big. They wouldn't become so big in terms of values. So
mm,
maybe that's all just a show and that's just bots and we're just kind of talking about hot air and that doesn't even exist and we don't even understand it really. But I sometimes think like imagine how can you like put all your money on Fartcoin because some dude on the internet told you that's the new Bitcoin or something like this and be like, no, no, I'm for sure gonna be a millionaire and be like, oh no, I lost all my money. I mean, I don't know. It's almost like so irrational that I find it hard to believe that that exists, but it obviously does. I don't know, somehow.
gambling.
And people get super aggressive about it and be like, oh, that's why sometimes when the camel says, oh, the sentiment is really, really in the gutter and people are getting really aggressive. And I always think like, man, dude, I'm so sorry that you have to go through this. Like, man, it's like sometimes I even leave a comment and be like, "Oh man, Camel, like, just cheer up." I don't know what I can say or do so that because it must be so tough if like thousands of people like write you hate messages and be like, "Oh, but you said that it's gonna be the cycle low and na," and be like, "Yeah, but Camel is not your father." Like Camel is just a camel on the internet. I mean, he's great, but he's just a camel on the internet, and it's your fucking fault if you just like do stuff if you have. I mean, these kind of things I could talk for hours. Like sometimes I don't even know why it upsets me. I have nothing to do with this. Like literally, it's not even my channel. Like, Jesus.
Yeah, it's there's two ways to look at that because obviously he puts himself into a position to be beholden to the positive and the negative. I think that's part of having a YouTube or a social media presence. And hats off to the guy for doing that. And the other thing is a lot of when I hear him talking about because we talk every now and then, and a lot of the times I hear that I just sit there and think well, that's only coming from people that have heaped their probably hopes on something happening, and they haven't been listening to you for 3 or 4 years to educate themselves. And I think that's just a general circumstance of the cost of living crisis that we find ourselves in. People are desperate and they
Mm.
will hang on to hopeism that almost along the same lines of I'm going to go into casino, put £1,000 on black and hope it comes in.
that's actually even better because there at least you have a 50-50 chance. Like
Well, not quite.
putting your thousand. Oh, well, if you have black and red, yeah,
Yeah,
well, not quite.
unfortunate.
Maybe you have
Yeah,
zero.
unfortunately,
Yeah,
there's a green O
yeah,
in there,
true.
isn't there?
True. Yeah, but at least I mean the chances are higher than putting it on some random stuff where I don't know.
Yeah.
Just lately, just to kind of I don't know. So we're not really talking about crypto, but or the topic today is not crypto. But I just realized that I don't know. A couple of weeks ago, I was talking about these kind of things because I was somehow put into a position where I was almost defending like certain altcoin projects that because I know that there are really I've met some and I worked with some people that they actually really try to kind of build some technology so that they can do whatever they do for a living, but they try to kind of like put it on chain and they try to somehow create use cases where they say, oh, that might mainly it's DeFi or actually what they call it regenerative finance, I think refi, and there's some things, some projects that I really like and I follow, but but some weeks ago, a friend of mine asked me, like a guy actually is kind of like a friend of a friend. He asked me like, "Oh, what do you think? Because could you actually say that crypto is a scam as a whole?" And I said, to be honest, like objectively speaking, if you ask me that, I have to say you would have to answer the question in a way. My analysis would be if I take like randomly, I don't know if there are like 10, let's say, I know that there are millions of shitcoins, but let's say there were 10 million, and you take 10 million of those coins and you go through each one of them and you say, okay, which one of those are really a scam? Which one of those try to not be a scam but somehow end up being a scam? Because there's a big gray zone, right? There's like, which one of those are just like technically like so challenged that they cannot actually do what they actually genuinely want to do, and therefore somehow they end up being something very close to a scam. And so all of these nuances, and if you go through all of this, and then you realize at the end, yeah, actually 99% of all of these are actually somehow scamish or in these kind of areas, then yeah, objectively speaking, you would be obliged to say the result of my analysis is crypto is a scam. And it'd be like, obviously, there are projects that are not a scam, but I don't know, like with everything, if you just go by majority, and then it's like so blatantly clear that more than 99% doesn't make sense, then how are you gonna convince people and say like on top of this you have all these scams that come out all the time and people get rocked and people get hacked and be like, yeah, it's quite difficult to convince anybody that this is not a scam. Like people would just be like, especially if you try to drag these kind of applications into something like biotech or pharma or something, they look at you and they be like, dude, I think you're sick. Like you want to scam me. Like, what's wrong with you? I thought you were like a serious dude. And be like, no, I gave up on this actually. No, I don't know. I'm not giving up, but it's just very tough. And so I'm just trying to kind of like get a little bit of distance and just to kind of refocus my energy on things that are not so immature and so difficult to deal with. So sometimes I prefer just to kind of talk about it in terms of, oh, just use words like distributed ledger or something that does not mention crypto because otherwise you get put into a box and then it's just difficult to get out of there.
I get it. It's so difficult, but I've got some really basic. If anyone talks to me about anything like this anymore, I've got a very basic reply to most things. Now, if anyone says, is crypto a scam to me? I say no. They go, oh, really? I say no. The people within crypto are probably the scam
Or the
more than
scum.
it, or scum, yeah. But they're the scam. The people. It's all about the people. The crypto without the people can't be a scam. Once you put people in and what people are trying to do, then it can become a scam, which is no different to anything else in life.
It's
You'll
like
get
a gun is a gun,
you'll
but the
get
person truly,
scammed out of anything,
yeah.
and the only way you can get scammed out of anything is the people behind the scam. It's not the technology; it's the people. And then once you have that conversation and you look at things and just say, because I'm a big advocate of, half the stuff people could ask me of certain cryptocurrencies, and I would not have a clue what they're going on about. I've probably never heard of them, because I'm not interested in it. But I always turn around and say, like, well, what value is it to you, and what do you want to
Mm.
achieve from it, and how much research have you done into it?
Most of the people don't care about any sort of research on crypto. I mean, literally, I think I
They
don't. That's what I'm
just want
saying.
they
It's
just want
like
the money.
yeah, it's like it's kind of like part of the dead internet story, like or I don't know
Yeah.
if it's a story of a hypothesis or some theory, but it's I think it might as well just all be bots and we're just like talking about stuff that is completely it's not even real because it's just so crazy. Like some people if they like you ask them it's like so but why did you put in money in this? I know they scammed me because now the token is worth only like I don't know, half of what it was worth and be like, yeah, but didn't you have a look at what they claim to be the tokenomics or that somehow that how they engineered the emission of their token? It was clear that this is going to end up like this. And be like, no, I didn't look at that at all, but I don't care. Be like, yeah, okay, but then it's your fault because you're an idiot. Like, why would if you go to a bank and the bank tells you, yeah, you can put your money in my bank, but then maybe next year we're just gonna you know, we're just gonna print like I don't know twice the amount of money that we have already, and so what you put here will just be worth much less. Then would you say like, yeah, that's a good idea. Let's put the money there because no, you wouldn't. You would just be like, no, I'm putting it underneath my pillow. But people they don't care, and so I don't know. It's just what it is. There's no point in complaining about this. It's actually completely a waste of time. It can be fun though. It can be sometimes a lot of fun when you go through these chats and you'll be like, oh my God, this is it's like, these kind of things when you watch something on TV and you cannot you cannot look away, but you can also not stop watching and you'll be like, what am I wasting my time in my life with this crap? And you'll be like, shit, but I have to keep on watching.
Yeah, it's the hit. You get a hit from it, don't you?
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of embarrassing to agree, but yeah, I agree.
oh, you do.
I have to admit if it's true, it's true. But yeah.
It's it's really funny. It's I don't know, one of the crazy things I always say to my children. I said, do the things that you can control in the environment that you've got. And if you want to invest your money, then do the research and invest your money. And they'll go, okay, what's the most important thing? I say, well, the most important thing is fundamentally empowering yourself to be able to find or earn or put yourself into a position to collect the currency that you're currently using in your country, which we all live in the UK. So you go to work, earn your money, and then you invest it in something that's valuable to you, possibly going forward in the future. And you just need to do that simplistic thing, really. You don't need anybody else. You can do it yourself. And so far, they've done that and they're doing okay. But their
Mm.
value is placed on them doing it, not on what they put into making that do it for them. The value is them. So the value starts at the right place. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it might make sense. I'm getting easily confused with um with the concept of value in general because I don't know. I think I'm struggling sometimes to maybe because I've been just living for too long in a very I don't know if in a world that is coined by efficiency and where value is only kind of like counted in monetary terms and now somehow
Yeah.
I'm
I
somehow I
yeah.
try to take a lot of distance from this, and I have the feeling, especially here now, it's like it's been only 10 days. I just recently, like a week ago, got out of the jet lag and all of this, so it's culturally very different. And so I don't know, I'm in a metamorphosis process, I think. kind of,
I guess
yeah.
what I'm trying to say is your true value is you
Yeah.
and
No, that's for sure.
everything about you. So whatever you do outside of you is secondary to the value of what you could do for yourself,
Yeah.
if that makes
Yeah.
sense. So
It
whatever you
makes
do,
sense,
whether
but
that's having whether you're investing money, whether you're having a relationship, whether you want to love someone, whether you would just want to be a
yeah.
good person, it all starts. The true value is how much you value yourself in the concept of all of that.
You realize that so the official topic was cost of living, and we've been speaking a lot about value actually rather,
Yeah.
and I find this extremely interesting because it's obviously those topics are somehow um, associated, but it's interesting that that's intuitively, not only me but also you. We've been speaking a lot of what value is about, and sometimes I think we've been speaking about it even in cultural differences, about food and about affection and how showing affection is all value. So that this is great. This is something that this is actually, in my opinion, what the conversation should be about. And it should, when you distance yourself from, well, not necessarily distance yourself from efficiency, but maybe that should be somehow even integrated into the concept of efficiency. Because then, even though it's you run then the risk to kind of like, you know, destroy actually the concept of affection and the concept of love and stuff. Because one of the things, for example, is like I don't want to give value to this that I can then somehow increase in efficiency or all this psychedelics talk that we had as well. I actually love the mystic I don't know about these things stuff. And I as a scientist, sometimes I think to myself, how can I even say this? Like, I want to know everything about everything, how stuff works, and I analyze everything. But then I think like it would be so terrible if you really truly understand how love works and you could manipulate it, because people would try to make money with it. People would try to kind of like this, then it would be destroyed, and there's no reason anymore to do anything. So I'm happy with some things, just not knowing some things, and maybe they should be somehow, you should keep this mystery forever and just leave it there.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know, I don't know. Again, I think it's as you get to that older age, you're you just have such a different, I've got such a different outlook on life now. It's getting back to value, and it's all intertwined with cost of living and bits and pieces. But getting back to value, my values of how I see what's really valuable to me is now I look at trying not to use a word to explain what value is to me. I just try to use an emotional expression, but I know it's difficult when you're trying to communicate with someone. But you really do sit back and you look back and you think, whoa, what the hell was I doing there? What was my principal reason for doing what I was doing? And did I lose exactly what I thought was my purpose? Because I got just so trapped and embroiled into that total hamster wheel of everyone else. You just forget to value yourself, which is why I now say to my children, it's the true value of life is you and what you do with you and how you are and how you want to be and finding that value in everything you do, whether it's finance, like getting back to it, finance, love, relationships, I don't know, communicating, anything. It's
It's
fascinating.
very
It's really
close. Would
interesting.
would you say it's very close to it's like a topic, there's this the central topic of a video that I think last week somehow Camel put on his channel, like just after a video. I think it's called The Strangest Secret by Earl Nightingale. That
Yeah,
was actually
I
like
see.
if you have,
I saw he posted that. Yeah,
yeah,
I didn't
that's,
watch it, to be fair.
yeah, I think you'd like it
Mm. But it's
because that,
common. It's just common sense.
hmm.
But the
It's like all of these things as well. Like basically that's one of the main messages that all of these like the value, but what is you and all of the positivity and everything that you can actually be and have and aim for and then actually successfully achieve, that is already there. That is, you just have to kind of understand that everything has already been given to you. You have to kind of channel your mental power and your own energy into always focusing on this type of positivity and say, this is what I want. I have my target, I have my objective, and I'm working towards this, and I know that I can do it. I cannot even fail, so it's impossible to fail. I'm just gonna go and do it, and I'll be successful. I know I can do it, and then you will have everything in line and everything in order to get there. And then you go through this exercise and be like, oh no, I have a negative thought. And you just push it aside and be like, okay, I have to start over from scratch. So I do this same exercise again because I had one negative thought. And I don't need this negative thought because I know I can do it and I know I cannot fail. That's more or less kind of my interpretation. Maybe maybe you would somehow see it in a different way. But
No,
I like that.
yeah, it's definitely true. The only reason why you get up in the morning is because you get up in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah, I get up in the morning because at the moment I have no curtains and the sun wakes me up. But yeah, I agree.
But that's the only reason. There isn't. I mean, when you really think about it, it's very philosophical. This. Lots of people would tell, "Oh, well, I've got to get up to go to work." Yeah, well, that's the reason why you get up.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
lots of people say they have to do something because of work, and that's exactly the opposite of the reality. It's like, why would you say that? Like, oh, I have to go home and I have to sleep because I have to work tomorrow. Yeah, you don't actually have to. You can also just not sleep at all and still go to work. You might not be as efficient as, and then maybe your boss would be like, oh, you're not efficient enough, and so our company is not going to make enough money because then it's a company not going to be efficient, and then everywhere is going to be inefficient because of you. It's your fault. You're going to get fired. You're like, oh no, I'm not efficient. My life is shit because I'm so not efficient. I have to have a depression now and die. No, that's not a life. That sucks. I
yeah,
think I
but
should make a channel, call it the inefficiency channel, and just be like, what's the best way to be fucking inefficient?
I
And
should
if you
think
don't like it, then deal with it.
I should think
Don't like, don't.
most of us are probably quite expert at being inefficient.
Yeah, it comes naturally to everyone. It must be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. It is funny. It's I could go really down a deep rabbit hole just purely on the question of why did I get up this morning?
Hmm.
You know, because so many people got different reasons. I mean, if anyone said, "Oh, I had to get up because I had to go to work," okay, well, didn't you want to go to work? No, I hate that job, but I had to get up. And then I would sit there and think, well, get another job then. What are you doing? And then if you said that to that person, then it starts well, I can't get another job because I need the money. And off we go. You're
Hmm.
totally on that negative, wrong reasons for getting up in the morning. How have you started your day? And that's without, if they've got kids, having to get up or look after someone before they go to work. And you think, Jesus Christ, man. And then I sit down and I think, well, I get up in the morning. I'm lucky. I'm very lucky. And I know that. I get up in the morning and just think, okay, what am I doing today then?
That's very interesting. I could maybe draw a parallel to a conversation that I had yesterday because it's not really about getting up in the morning, but it's about what to study, like what you should like you study in university, and it's somehow similar in the sense that I don't know, there are different motivations for studying something. Like as you said, you can get up in the morning because of work, or just simply because the sun is shining in your face and be like, oh, I just woke up, and then so I had this conversation with the daughter of a cousin of mine, and she is an artist and she wants to study art. She's 18 years old and she wants to go to France and study there. And obviously I studied in France, so she asked me like if I can have a look at her. There's some things that she has to submit. And I was like, man, I'd love to. Like, fantastic, because it also kind of is a good excuse to kind of like kind of get to know the person really, because there's some kind of like rather personal questions that you have to answer for the application process, so for the universities. Like they asked her and then to describe some kind of like sculpture and what kind of like impact it had on her personality and her development is a this is actually quite interesting and a nice excuse to get to know this little girl. And so I was sitting there and she explained to me this entire story, like so passionate about the Greek mythology. There's like Cupid and Psyche, and they have this Cupid falls in love with Psyche, but Cupid's mother is Aphrodite, and she is like the goddess of I think beauty, and she's jealous with Psyche because Psyche is so beautiful, and so there's like things going on, you know, when a god gets jealous in Greek mythology, then it's never good. There's never a good story or never good ending for the person that is somehow affected. And so if eventually Psyche like somehow is in this kind of like mortal paralysis because she cannot like fulfill the tasks that she needs to do to somehow get back with Cupid, and then Cupid comes and somehow heals her or somehow relieves her from the spell by just kissing her. And that's a statue that is in the Louvre in Paris. That's because she went to the Louvre and she saw the statue and she was explaining how she felt, like her emotions when she saw this, and when she actually didn't see the what can be seen in the internet in the pictures of the statue, but when she went around the statue and she could see it from behind. And so she said, and it was so nice and so beautiful what she described. And I thought, wow, that's just so eloquently explained by an 18-year-old. I wish I had that capacity when I was 18-year-old. It was just crazy. And I thought like, oh, so then she said, yeah, but you know, all my uncles and aunts, they tell me that it's just a waste of time to study art because I'll never get a job anyway. And that's just the worst decision that I can do. And it's just going to be, you know, a waste of time, a waste of energy. And that's exactly where I draw the parallel. You know, it's like I wake up because I have to go to work. I have to study this because that's going to give me money when I'm a grown up. Yeah, I mean, if you do that, then you take away all her passion, all her motivation, and you basically throw her mentally into the hamster wheel before the hamster wheel even started. So you create this kind of like efficiency sociopath that just thinks like, oh, I have to study business administration because then I'm gonna get like this fantastic job and I'm gonna be dead inside. But it doesn't matter because I have all the money to pay for the psychologist that is gonna help me to be healthy again. Fantastic.
It's true though, isn't it?
Yeah, so
It's
obviously,
so true.
yeah, obviously I know it's tough. I know I have a lot of friends, they studied, I know, literature, arts and stuff, and it's fucking hard to get a job. And then obviously if you get a job, it might be a shit job and you might work in some kind of museum doing stuff you actually never wanted to do. I understand that. That's a reality of life. We all need some money to survive. But then I don't know. I felt like I'm definitely not going to tell her that. It's going to be such a great time if she goes to Paris to study there or anywhere in France, and it's going to be like she's going to fall in love. She's going to have I don't know, a lot of friends. She's going to I don't know, have disappointments, but also I don't know, everything from all of these first experiences, and it's going to be fantastic. And why would I destroy this for her? That would just so stupid. There's like no need. It's fantastic. Like it's just the only thing you have to do is, put in the look at the format, give some advice, look, take care of this, that, and that's it. And then you can, shake a hand, get up, give her a hug, and fuck off. That's it.
Yeah,
And then you just say congrats. Once she got into university, congrats. If ever you need something, text me. That's it. That's all you have to do.
yeah, it's that support mechanism, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, at
It's
least I thought that way.
that's important. The only, the only, okay, this is me personally. The only way I've never restricted my children to do anything they wanted to do, but what I did help them through their decision processes was try to give them that bit of wisdom and experience to say, but you do realize that this could happen. And if you do realize this can happen and it's always there, and I'm always there to remind you as you go through your journey, then if it does happen, you're not going to be disappointed, and you're going to use that experience to then drive on to do what you need to do.
Mm.
And I think that's really important, because then you're not, for me personally, I'm not mollycoddling a pretense and a pantomime world for my children when they go out there. I'm sort of pre pre training them to say, okay, it's okay to go out and follow your dreams, but don't use use the possibility of disappointment to make sure that it doesn't spoil your dreams and just spurs you on, because you will be disappointed at some stage, you know. But don't see it as a negativity. Just see it as, oh yeah, right, yeah. I remember Dad talking that that could happen, but hey ho, at least it wasn't a shock.
Yeah. No,
And
that's
that's a
actually
great,
good advice. Yeah.
yeah, it's a great support mechanism, because you're not. I don't know. For me, it's, you know, people might agree with it, might not. I don't know, but I cannot see the point of bringing up children and wrapping them up in cotton wool, and not sharing the possibilities of disappointment on their journeys, because they will experience them
Many. It's part of life. Yeah, for sure.
forever. I'm still doing it now,
Mm. Yeah.
you know. But yeah, I'm with you. You know, if someone's got a pure dream, especially in art and whatever, because art can just, that expressional, creative blossoming of creativity can take you anywhere, in any walk of life, in any aspect of life, because it opens up your mind to any possibility.
Mm.
And I
It's
think
so
that's really
crazy.
important.
Exactly that. Yeah, it's super
It's
important because
it's
particularly if you have this sensitivity or yeah, at such a young age,
yeah.
because it's I wish I had that like because that I mean I don't know. I think at that age I was just so for personal reasons like so closed off like emotionally, so I didn't really have access to that. But yeah, but I think if you have, then I know it's such a great that there's so many opportunities, and if you're just a bit smart, then there's just all the doors are open to you, and it's so great to look back and think back about the time, when oneself was in that age, and how much energy one had, and how many aspirations and ideas and I don't know, not ideological, idealistical like values and all these things, and they're all floating around, and you can explore everything. It's just fantastic, and having this energy, that's great. Like, why would you take this away from anybody?
We
Like,
go. You literally will go through life without blinkers on.
yeah, it's there's enough to worry about later in life, so you'll figure out. Like it's great. I think it's always good in that moment also, adding to what you said, it's maybe what you can do is like if you have not the capacity or the skills to be a mentor yourself, then you can always kind of like try to find somebody to find some orientation like I was even thinking like I have some friends that are artists, like maybe they should kind of like get in touch because it's always cool to have somebody who is in your field who is somehow breathes the same air as you, like feels the same vibes as you, to have as a mentor who is older, who already went, but not somebody who tells you you cannot do that. More something like you said, it's like, look, there's gonna be some disappointments. Don't worry about this, but just go ahead and let's have a chat in a year and see how you develop. Something like that. I think that's worth a lot.
Massively important.
Mm.
It's massively important.
Man, thanks. Actually, you put this idea in my head. I know already what I'm gonna do later then. Yeah, I
Massive.
have to talk to a
It,
couple of people.
it's massive to go through life with the possibility of. It's always good to be around the people that share the same sort of things that you do, but it's also very good to be not blinkered, to be appreciative of the people that you don't share that your life with,
Mm.
because then you see different opportunities.
Maybe like on a, I know I'm jumping a lot, but on a
No, you're
different level
fine.
for myself in a way, I I think one thing where I would say I could somehow right now, where I would like to kind of like change my perception of the reality and see different opportunities is I'd really love to learn Quechua, which is the ancient language of the Incas. And I'm looking for a school right now. And I think that really changes your perspective and it gives you a lot of opportunities because it might give you a lot of opportunities to actually talk to the people that are still speaking this languages from now. And I think there's so much to learn. And it's just because it's kind of, I don't know if you could say frowned upon, but it's kind of, because of the whole history, it's not really something that you can learn in school here. And this is really sad because there's so much history that gets lost. But just in recent months, I thought maybe I should kind of take this opportunity and just learn that language and talk to these people and see and understand their culture better and understand what is it, how they are. They're an integral part of this country and me and my family because like we don't know that language. I've never had access to this, so that is maybe also kind of like from a perspective point of view. Like it gives you a lot of opportunities to see one the same thing in many different ways. I really, I really like that. Enjoy that.
Yeah, it is. I would say this to anybody: if you've got the opportunity to do or learn something new, whether it's culture, anything, then if you have that opportunity, then you've got to do it.
Do you have some ancient language in the UK? Something like, I don't know, maybe Gaelic or something, I don't know. Or something in England where you say this is some language that is hardly spoken anymore, but it would be, I don't know, some kind of minority or somebody talking something that is not English? Or would you say English is the only ancient language that exists there?
I think so. Yeah, as a
Really?
rule. Um, Good question. I don't know the answer to that wholeheartedly, but I'm trying to think. The thing is, there's so many cultures now integrated in the UK. No, there could be some maybe local languages that people use, but none that I've never heard. There's obviously the really different accents that people use at different areas around the UK, and some you can't really understand. But no, that's a good question actually. I don't, not that I'm aware of. Obviously, you've got Welsh, Scottish,
Mm.
Irish.
Scottish is funny. It's funny that people, I mean, Scottish is kind of like an English dialect, right? It's not really a known language, right? I
Yeah,
mean,
that,
even though sometimes people would like to kind of claim it is, but it's not really. It's just English pronounced in a very peculiar way, I guess, right?
yeah. Again, I don't know for sure, but there's a lot of Gaelic interaction with the Irish and Scottish.
Mm. Oh, okay.
So there could be, over history.
Some words.
So
Okay.
there's probably more localized languages spoken, but not in the UK. We're a bit weird in the like in England. Sorry. Good question. Don't know.
I
Don't know
love
the answer.
Scottish. Like I think it's fantastic. I love it. I love how it sounds. Sometimes I don't really understand it, but it's fantastic. It's really
Oh,
something
yeah,
that
definitely. Yeah, a very attractive lady talking Scottish or Irish is, yeah, it's quite. It does a lot for an old man.
really.
That's
I didn't
that's
know
for
that.
sure. Well, it's always, yeah. I've always, especially the
So you're
Irish
chasing the
accent.
Scottish birds over there.
Sorry.
Are you chasing the Scottish birds over there?
Oh God, no, not my age. I'm a happily married man.
Of course. No, just kidding.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Listen, Andy, it's been fantastic chatting with you, but I think I haven't
I've got
had
to go
lunch yet,
anyway.
and it's almost 3:30.
Yeah,
I got to jump. But
dude,
it's been
we
great. And I
We've been
just sorry,
we've
just
been
one
on
more
for
thing.
more than 5 minutes. That's for sure.
Yeah, I know, I
That
know. I
went on
started
longer.
it's
That's
gonna
really
be a
cool, mate.
short chat, but I just realized I just asked ChatGPT how to say have I wish you a great day. It seems to in Quechua, so it seems to be Ali Puncha Kachun. So I wish you a great day. It's literally translated in May you have a good day.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
yeah, that's my
Follow your
gift to you
dreams,
for
dude.
today.
Yeah, thank you for that, mate. Thank you for popping on as well. I found that really interesting. Look after yourself, yeah,
Yeah, you too.
and
Yeah,
follow
take
that
care of
and
yourself.
follow those dreams. Now you've told me those things. I'm going to be asking you. Did you sort that out? Did you do that? Come on, what's the matter with you?
Uh,
Come on, you should be following that up. I start
uh,
chasing you, kicking you up the backside.
I'm on it. I'm on it. But
If
yeah, a good kick in the ass sometimes is necessary. I appreciate that.
100%, we all need it, dude. That's for sure.
Yeah. All
Thank you very
right.
much. You take good care, mate.
You too. See
See you
ya.
later. Take care. Bye bye. That was wicked. Wasn't expecting that. I love it. I absolutely love these conversations. Thanks, 1LV. But I'm going to call it a day now. I've got a few things to do. So, yeah, take good care of yourselves. See you soon. Bye.